The medical scanner beeped 3 times. Doctor. Riva Olivison studied the screen with quiet satisfaction. The results were clear. The human patient's respiratory system was strong. His heart was healthy. His blood levels were stable. Everything about Daniel Webb was normal. That was the problem. Humans always looked normal, until they proved the galaxy wrong. Riva adjusted her soft blue feathers as they shifted slightly with her thoughts. She was a Valoran physician, trained in advanced interspecies medicine. She had spent 2 years studying human biology before accepting her position at Station Crescent 7. And yet, Daniel was only her 3rd human patient. Humans were rare this far from Earth's core regions. Most worked in remote sectors, taking dangerous jobs that other species avoided. "You may sit up now," Riva said gently. Her translator converted her melodic chirps into smooth human speech. Daniel pushed himself upright on the examination table. He was lean, with weathered skin and tired eyes. His file said he was 34 years old and worked as a salvage operator aboard a ship called the Driftwood. He needed a physical exam to renew his license. "Everything look good, Doc?" he asked casually. "Your readings are excellent," Riva replied. "Surprisingly excellent." She tilted her head. "Your cellular regeneration markers are above the average baseline for your species. Do you take supplements?" Daniel laughed softly. "No, just lucky genes, I guess." Riva made a note in his file. Humans were strange. They came from a world where survival was never guaranteed. Yet they had spread across the galaxy as if they belonged everywhere. She noticed something else on her screen. "You have not eaten this morning," she said. "Your glucose levels are slightly low." Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. "Yeah, I was running late. I'll grab something later." Riva's feathers shifted to a focused yellow. She had read that proper nutrition was important during medical evaluations. This was her chance to observe human digestion directly. "Please eat now," she said firmly. "I would like to monitor your response." Daniel blinked. "You want to watch me eat?" "For medical reasons." "Yes." He shrugged. "All right then." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a sealed foil packet about the size of his hand. "Ship rations," he explained. "Not fancy, but it works." He tore open the packet that a strong smell filled the room. Sharp. Acidic. Intense that Riva's feathers stood on end. "What is that?" she asked carefully. "Breakfast burrito," Daniel said. "Got hot sauce and cheese inside. The good stuff." He took a large bite. Riva's medical scanner activated automatically, detecting unfamiliar biological compounds. Within seconds, the screen filled with red warnings. Capsaicin concentration, toxic levels, high sodium content, dangerous, fermented bacterial cultures detected, acidic compounds present, corrosive rating elevated. An alarm chimed softly from the ceiling. Riva froze. "Stop eating," she shouted. Her feathers flared bright red. "Put that down immediately." Daniel stopped mid-bite. "What? What's wrong?" She rushed to the emergency cabinet and grabbed a stomach evacuation kit. "You are ingesting multiple toxic substances," she said urgently. "How are you still conscious?" Daniel looked at the burrito in confusion. "It's just food. Your scanner shows neurotoxin levels and bacterial contamination." Riva spun back toward him, holding the evacuation device. "I must remove it before organ damage occurs." Daniel slowly looked from the burrito to her panicked expression. Then his face shifted from confusion to understanding, then to quiet amusement. "Doc," he said calmly, "this is normal food for humans." "That is impossible." Before she could respond further, the medical bay doors slid open. Nurse Telly entered. Her translucent skin shimmered as she took in the scene. She sighed. "Dr. Sun," Telly said gently, "is this about human food again?" Riva's feathers flickered. "He is eating poison." Telly walked closer and examined the burrito. "That is a standard breakfast burrito with hot sauce and cheese. Humans eat these regularly. The capsaicin alone should cause nerve damage." Riva protested. "Humans evolved on a Class 7 death world," Telly replied calmly. "Their systems are built differently." Riva turned slowly toward Daniel. He was still holding the burrito, still healthy, still chewing. "You consume this regularly?" she asked. "Pretty much every day," Daniel replied. "For how long?" He thought for a moment. 12 years. Maybe longer. Riva's feathers slowly faded from red to a pale gray. 12 years. She lowered the evacuation kit. You have been eating toxic substances for 12 years, she whispered. Daniel shrugged. It's just breakfast. For the first time since meeting humans, Riva realized something important. Everything her scanner said was correct, and yet it meant nothing. Humans were not fragile. They were not delicate newcomers to the galaxy. They were survivors of a world that had tried to kill them, and somehow they had learned to turn that world into food. Riva sat down slowly in her chair. Her mind was no longer focused on the scanner. IT was focused on Daniel Webb, an ordinary-looking human, eating poison without fear and smiling. 3 minutes passed. Riva had not moved. Her feathers were still a dull gray, and the medical scanner continued blinking useless warnings on the counter. Daniel finished the rest of his burrito and wiped his hands on his pants. He looked at her with concern. Doc, you okay? You look pale. Gray. Nurse Telly corrected gently. Gray means shock in her species. Riva slowly took the cup of water Telly offered her. Her mind was racing. Capsaicin, fermentation, high sodium, acidic compound. In every medical database she had studied, these were dangerous substances, and yet Daniel had consumed them without issue. I need to understand, Riva said at last. How is this possible? Daniel scratched the back of his neck. Sometimes spicy food gives me heartburn. That's about it. Heartburn? Yeah. Mild discomfort. Riva's voice became flat. You consume neurotoxins and experience only mild discomfort. It's not really a neurotoxin to us, Daniel said calmly. Earth plants evolved to defend themselves. We just adapted. Telly stepped forward. Capsaicin evolved to discourage predators. On Earth, humans responded by developing tolerance. Some even enjoy the burning sensation. Riva stared at Daniel. You eat things that hurt you because it feels good? Daniel shrugged. Spicy food releases endorphins. Makes it enjoyable. Riva processed this slowly. Humans did not avoid toxins. They adapted to them. They sought them out. That still does not explain the fermented dairy, she said. Telly nodded. Milk naturally spoils. Humans discovered that controlled bacterial fermentation creates cheese. It extends shelf life and changes flavor. Riva blinked. You intentionally consume bacterial growth. Yes, Daniel said cheerfully. Cheese is amazing. She stared at him, then at her scanner. The device was still flashing warnings. Every signal was technically accurate, but it was built for species that evolved in stable environments. Humans did not. They evolved on Earth, a planet classified as a Class 7 death world. Telly continued explaining. Earth has extreme weather, active tectonics, dense predator populations, and harsh environmental variation. Survival required adaptation at every level. Riva looked at Daniel again. He did not look like a product of a death world. He looked tired, casual, ordinary. Yet his biology had been shaped by constant survival pressure. What else do humans consume? She asked carefully. Daniel thought. Well, coffee. Riva checked her database instantly. Caffeine, cardiac stimulant. High doses, risk of arrhythmia in most species. You drink this daily? Multiple times, Daniel replied. That Riva's feathers shifted slightly. And alcohol? Oh yeah. Riva accessed the classification. Alcohol, cellular poison. Risk of organ failure. Humans drank it recreationally. She lowered the tablets slowly. And chocolate, Daniel added. Theobromine compound, Riva muttered. Toxic to many species. Humans love it, he said. We give as gifts. Riva looked up sharply. You gift each other poison? Daniel tilted his head. When you say it like that, the scanner beeped again. Ignored this time. Riva realized something critical. For humans, danger was not always danger. Their biology was different. Their tolerance thresholds were higher, and their culture had grown around trial and adaptation. How do you decide what to eat? She asked. Daniel smiled. That's the funny part. Early humans tried everything. If it didn't kill them immediately, they kept eating it. Over time, we figured out what worked. Trial and error, Telly added. Some errors were fatal, Daniel admitted. But heat helped. Cooking kills most harmful organisms. Riva leaned back slowly. Cooking, heat as protection, fermentation as preservation. tolerance as adaptation. Humans had turned survival challenges into food culture. She muttered softly, almost to herself, "My scanner is useless." Daniel looked worried. "That bad?" "It is not designed for your biology," she admitted. Telly placed a reassuring hand on Riva's shoulder. "Many species react this way at first." Riva studied Daniel carefully. "You are not reckless," she said slowly. "No," he replied. "Just hungry." She almost smiled. For the first time, she saw humans differently, not as fragile aliens, but as survivors. And then, the station alarm suddenly echoed through the corridor. Medical emergency. Base 7. Multiple casualties. Riva stood instantly. Training replaced shock. Daniel stood as well. "I can help," he said. She looked at him. The poison-eating death whirled her, offering assistance. "Follow me," she said, "and stay close." Base 7 was chaos. Red emergency lights flashed across the walls. Alarms echoed through the station. Medical staff moved quickly between treatment beds. A mining transport had suffered a hull breach. 16 survivors had been rescued. 3 of them were human. Riva took command immediately. Her fear from the morning was gone. Training took over. She assigned patients to proper sections and began triage. Daniel stayed beside her. Without hesitation, he helped move stretchers. He applied pressure to wounds. He followed instructions exactly. He did not panic. He did not freeze. He acted. Riva noticed. "You have done this before," she said while working. "Salvage work is dangerous," Daniel replied calmly. "If you don't help fast, you lose people." His voice was steady, practical, focused. The first 2 human patients were stable, broken bones, burns, but nothing fatal. Riva studied their scans carefully. Human bones were dense, stronger than expected. They absorbed impact forces that would have shattered most species skeletons. Then she reached the 3rd human. Her name was Priya. Young, 25. Severe internal injuries. The whole impact had caused organ damage and internal bleeding. "She is going into shock," Riva said. Her heart rate was unstable, blood pressure dropping. "We need sedation," Nurse Telly said. Riva hesitated. Human medication doses were different. Too little would fail. Too much could stop her heart. "I do not know the correct dosage," Riva admitted. Before she could continue, Daniel spoke calmly. "Triple the normal Valoran dose." Riva turned to him. "That would sedate a Valoran for days." "For humans," Daniel said, "it lasts about 2 hours." Riva checked the readings again. The patient's body was burning energy rapidly. She needed stability. "Prepare triple dosage," Riva ordered. Telly injected the sedative. Priya's vital signs steadied slightly, but the internal bleeding remained critical. Riva felt doubt rising. She had never performed major surgery on a human. That if she made one mistake. Daniel stepped closer to the patient. He gently took Priya's hand. "Doc," he said quietly, "humans heal fast. We're built to recover. Just stop the bleeding and give her body time." "How can you be certain?" "I've seen humans survive worse." There was no arrogance in his voice, only confidence born from experience. Riva looked at the data, then at Daniel, then back at the patient. Finally, she made her decision. "Prepare surgical tools." The operation began. Riva's hands were steady. Human tissue was different, dense, fibrous, resilient. She carefully located the bleeding site and sealed it. The procedure lasted 40 minutes. When it was complete, Priya's condition was still serious, but stable. Now they could only wait. Daniel had not left her side during the surgery. He still held her hand, talking softly, even though she was unconscious. Riva noticed. "Why speak to her?" she asked gently. "Humans do better when they know someone is." "There," Daniel replied. "Connection matters." Riva observed the monitor. Priya's body began responding exactly as Daniel predicted. Her system stabilized. Healing processes activated. Cell regeneration increased. Within an hour, improvement was visible. "This should not be happening," Riva whispered. The damage was severe. Daniel smiled tiredly. "Like I said, we don't like dying." Telly approached with updates. "All other patients are stable." "And Priya?" Riva asked. "She will wake soon." Riva felt something new. Relief, respect, and understanding. Daniel Webb had entered this emergency as a patient. He had become part of the response team. Not because he was forced, because he chose to help. After the crisis ended, Riva stood quietly in the observation lounge. Stars floated beyond the window. Daniel found her there later, holding 2 cups point one for her point one for himself. Her condition is improving, he said. She asked about the doctor who saved her. Riva shook her head gently. I only stopped the bleeding. You gave her the chance to survive. She looked at the stars. Somewhere beyond them was Earth, at a world that shaped humans into what they were. She finally understood. Humans were not fragile beings in a dangerous universe. They were creatures forged by danger. And instead of breaking, they adapted. They persisted. And they helped others survive too. 1 week later, Station Crescent 7 felt different. The emergency was over. Patients were recovering. The medical bay was calm again. Riva sat at her desk, reviewing a new document on her screen. Guidelines for human patient care.it was already being shared across the station. She reread the first section carefully. Do not panic when a human eats something your scanner marks as toxic. Confirm with the patient before taking emergency action. The second section, human pain tolerance is significantly higher than most galactic species. Adjust medication doses accordingly. The third section, humans recover faster with social support. Keep them connected. Allow conversation, even during treatment. Riva leaned back. In 1 week, she had learned more than in 2 years of study. A knock came at the door. Enter, she called. Daniel Webb stepped inside. He looked cleaner than before. More rested. His duffel bag rested on his shoulder. Ship leaves in an hour, he said. Wanted to say goodbye. Riva felt a small tightness in her chest. She had grown used to seeing him daily. He had checked on patients, helped in recovery, answered every question without complaint. He was no longer just a patient, he was a friend. Where is the Driftwood heading? She asked. Sector 9. Salvage job. Should take 3 weeks. He smiled slightly. Captain Brass says thank you again for saving her crew. It was my duty, Riva replied. It was more than duty, Daniel said gently. She felt her feathers shift to a soft pink, the Valoran sign of affection. She quickly tried to control it, but he noticed and said nothing. Instead, he reached into his bag and placed something on her desk. Another foil packet, a breakfast burrito. For your research, he said. Extra hot sauce. Riva stared at it. Her scanner immediately activated, flashing warnings. She muted it without looking. I will not be eating this, she said. Daniel smiled. Didn't expect you to, but you can analyze it. She picked it up carefully. This is a gift, he added. From one friend to another. The word lingered in the air. Friend. Riva had few friends outside her species. Her work had always been professional, distant, but Daniel had changed that. I will miss you, she admitted quietly. I'll be back, he said. Crescent 7 is on our route. We pass through every few months. He grinned. And I need my annual medical checkup. She laughed softly. I will add you to my permanent patient list. Another knock interrupted them. Priya entered in a mobility chair, still recovering but smiling. Daniel helped her inside. She looked at Riva. Dr. Sun, I wanted to thank you before we leave. Riva moved to her side. How are you feeling? Much better. Telly says I'll be fully recovered in a week. Priya reached out and took Riva's hand. Daniel told me you'd never operated on a human before. That must have been scary. It was, Riva admitted. But you trusted him, Priya said. Riva nodded. Yes. Priya squeezed her hand gently. Thank you for listening. Daniel stood nearby, watching quietly. Before leaving, he turned back to Riva. You could visit the Driftwood sometime, he said. See how humans live out in deep space. That sounds dangerous. It is. He smiled. But you might learn something. Riva felt emotions move through her feathers. Curiosity, fear, hope. I will think about it, she said. Daniel nodded. That's enough. Then he and Priya walked toward the shuttle bay. Riva remained in her office, holding the burrito packet. She placed it carefully into her research storage unit. Her scanner beeped once more. Unknown biological specimen detected. Recommend disposal, she smiled. You have no idea, she said softly. That is just breakfast. She turned off the scanner. Then she opened a new file. Death World Dietary Adaptations. a comprehensive study of human nutritional resilience. The cursor blinked. Waiting, Riva began typing. The stars outside Station Crescent 7 drifted silently. For the first time in weeks, Riva felt calm. Not because everything was safe, but because she understood something new. Humans were not fragile beings surviving in the galaxy. They were built by survival itself. She leaned back in her chair and reviewed her updated protocols. Her new guidelines were already improving medical response across the station. Other doctors had begun asking questions. Some had laughed at first. Now, they were reading her notes carefully, especially the section about pain tolerance, especially the part about food. Riva smiled slightly. The burrito packet sat inside her research storage, sealed and labeled. IT was no longer a thread in her mind. IT was data, knowledge, understanding. Her door chimed again. Enter. Nurse Telly stepped inside. You look better, Telly said warmly. I feel better, Riva replied. Understand humans now. Telly tilted her head. That is good. They appreciate being understood. Riva nodded. I thought they were reckless. And now I believe they are persistent. Telly's gills fluttered in amusement. That is a better word. Riva stood and looked toward the station window. Somewhere in the distance, a small salvage ship would soon detach and return to the deep black. Humans would go back to dangerous sectors, back to unstable mines, back to broken ships, back to environments other species avoided. Not because they lacked fear, but because fear did not stop them. She remembered Daniel's words. Courage is not the absence of fear, that IT is acting despite it. That idea stayed with her. The scanner on her desk beeped again. She glanced at it. Another warning about the burrito sample stored in her unit. She reached over and muted it permanently. You are no longer my teacher, she said quietly to the device. You are outdated. She opened a fresh research document. Title: Human Resilience and Adaptive Biology in Extreme Environments. Her fingers moved steadily across the screen. She added sections about dietary tolerance, evolutionary adaptation, psychological resilience, social bonding effects, emergency response behavior, risk tolerance patterns. Each page filled quickly. The data was overwhelming. Humans were not simple. They were layered, complex, and remarkably cooperative. She paused for a moment, then added one final section. Observational note. Humans do not survive because they avoid danger. They survive because they adapt to it, and they help each other while doing so. A notification appeared on her console. Incoming message from the Driftwood. Daniel's ship. She opened it. A short video message loaded. Daniel appeared on screen, wearing his salvage uniform. Behind him, the deep black of space shimmered. Hey, Doc, he said casually. Just wanted to say thanks again. Priya's doing great. Crew's back to work, and I'm still eating burritos. He grinned. Don't worry. I brought extra this time. He paused. And thanks for not giving up on me when you thought I was poisoning myself. Most species would have panicked harder. Riva felt warmth in her feathers. She replied through the station system. I have updated medical protocols based on your species. Daniel laughed. Good. We'll keep surprising you. He gave a small wave. See you next visit. Document. The transmission ended. Riva sat quietly for a long moment. Then she leaned back and looked at the stars again. For the first time since meeting humans, she did not see danger when thinking of them. She saw persistence. She saw cooperation. She saw courage hidden inside ordinary behavior. Her scanner lay silent on the desk. And oh, alarms, and oh, panic. Just data and understanding. She closed her research file and saved it. Station Crescent 7 would now treat humans differently. Not as fragile aliens, but as Death World survivors with unique biology. AS partners, AS allies, AS friends. Riva stood and walked to the window. Beyond the station lights, ships moved through space. Some species feared humans, some underestimated them. But she knew the truth now. Humans were not the most powerful species in the galaxy. They were not the most advanced. They were something else. They were persistent, and that made all the difference. She smiled softly. Welcome to the stars, she whispered to the distant ship. Then she turned back to her desk. There was still work to do, and she was excited to continue.